Hi, everyone. If you can just confirm that both the sound and the image are okay. All good. So let's go. This monthly recap will be a bit special because we didn't do a monthly recap for the last 2 months. So basically, we will go over the last 3 months and then we will go back to the normal rhythm. So unlike the other monthly recap, I won't go into the detail of all the different governance discussions. Not that there was not interesting one, but it was too much discussion to recapitulate here. So I will just go quickly over came. So the Treasury has melted. Not that much though. I think we lost something like 50% of our assets. I mean, the asset value that we had in March. So now we have around $231,000 of assets, which includes $100,000 of debt. So without the debt, it's $331,000. No need to go over all the different one, but maybe a few to mention. So first, our CVX, I think this is where we took the biggest hit. Now we have $62 worth of CVX, but regardless, every 2 weeks we are earning around $1,000 of bribes. We win them in CVX most of the time. We also have bribes in Angle token, FXS, so mix, but most of it's in CVX. So this month over $75,000 in CVX CRV. We have locked the CRV on Convex, and here also we are generating some. I mean, we do some liquidity mining with it. So I think we win around 26 or 30% per year with it. We also very recently acquired $10,000 worth of DDD, which is the equivalent of Convex, but on the Binance Smart Chain. And this allows us to vote for the 2BRL pool in order to increase the yield that we receive, I mean, liquidity provider receiving this pool. Speaking of which, we also recently invested into the 2BRL pool with $40,000. Like that, we are generating yield around 50% per year as of today on the platform ... Again, I'm saying ... is equivalence of Convex, but on the Binance BNB chain, because they changed their name. We still have a bit of UMA, $19,000. The rest of UMA has been sold to basically buy the CRV token. We still have a decent amount of USDC and BUSD, $154,000, but $30,000 should not be accounted because they are coming from a grant that we received from JPYC. Half of this grant, so 15,000 USD, or actually less, maybe 10,000 USD, it will be used to launch a boost on the JPYC, I mean the 2JPY pool on Bifi. Sorry, I have something in the throat. And the rest, the 20,000, will actually be used when we will launch a new token, the new Jarvis token, and it will be used to bribe voters to vote for the 2JPY pool. So this is pretty cool. We know that we already have secured $20,000 of bribes for when we launch the new token. And interesting column on the right, So you may notice that it's not J euro but AJ euro, or not JCHF but F JCHF. Basically, those are the JFiat that the Treasury is lending on AAV and on market, and they generate interest, of course, for us. So far, the most impressive has been the J euro on the platform AAV V3. We generated $1,33,000 of interest. I think we started 3 months ago. I mean, maybe less actually, maybe two and a half months ago. And for markets, our best shot for now is the Canadian dollar, together with the euro and the dollar from Singapore, because altogether, again, it's pretty close to $1,000 of interest. So this is pretty cool because the V2 will be able to scale, which means that we'll be able to have way bigger pool on curve. And bigger pool on curve means first more revenue for the Treasury, but also we will be able to increase the liquidity on the money market and therefore to earn more yield, of course. That's all for the Treasury. Okay, let's speak about the ecosystem. We are flirting with the $10 million worth of TVL, almost $1 million on BSC, but only due to the real from Brazil. Don't pay attention to those 2 pikes; those were bugs from Defilama. So as you can see, we went steady. There is just this part which is interesting here. So this is actually the crisis of UST, because when there was many people withdrawn their liquidity from many different pools with stable coins, and because the strongest stable coin on curve is always a JFiat, because of the possibility to redeem them for USDC or to sell them easily for ETH or whatever. But most of the people that actually withdrew, I think, a very interesting direction and proof from the market that JFiat were the strongest stablecoin assets instead of the other one. We are now at $180 million of volume on our primary market. For the secondary market, I think we are close to 130. I have to check. So altogether, we are around 300. I mean, a bit more than $300 million of assets that has been exchanged on Polygon. But the most interesting number for me is this: more than 10,000 unique users, so maybe not users, but at least address, which have interacted with our primary market, 55,000 transactions. Here we can see the evolution of the transaction. There is something very interesting in this chart. So you see that each different stablecoins have a different color. So without surprise, we see that the dominant color here in terms of volume, it's the color of the euro. But we also see sometimes some yellow stains. So the yellow it's actually for the Singapore dollar. But here it's different. It's the number of transactions, the chart here. And we see that in the number of transactions, there was an incredible amount of transaction for the Singapore dollar when we launched the pool. Those were actually multiple arbitrage that happens when we launch the pool. And you also can see that there is a lot of green, which coincide with the JGPY. So here also, many different arbitrage happens thanks to the 2GPY pool. About the ecosystem, about the router. So I will add soon a third router. Now we have the curve Forex router. We'll speak about it after. So don't pay attention to this. I forgot to calculate them correctly. So for the Onchain Jarvis router, we didn't evolve a lot. It's still around a bit more than $1 million of transaction that happened. But for Paraswap, it is a bit more interesting because we overpassed the $30 million of swaps that Paraswap has routed. Remember that for now, Paraswap only route Euro, GBP, and Swiss franc. But since a few days now, it is possible to route all the JFiat that we have. We just need now a price feed from CoinGecko in order to display them and for the UI of Paraswap to take those swaps, I mean, to calculate the slippage and so on. Number of swap and swap volume, this is a bit less interesting. Available liquidity and the P&L of the liquidity provider. In terms of on and off ramp, we don't progress and there is no growth, but at least the numbers are always the same. So every month there is around $2 million, $2.5 million of on and off ramp. But that's all. The only things to say. So again, we have to remove the beginning and the end of the month from last year, which were incredibly high because of the end of the year and so on. So it looks like that our more normal flow of transaction as of today is around $2.5 million per month using Mon Pèlerin. Okay, so what did we do for the last month? Well, there are so many things that we can speak about, but I decided to try to short this list to those different things. So first, we launched Jarvis Exchange as well as 2 JFiat and the on and off ramp of Mon Pèlerin on both Gnosis and Avalanche. This is cool because it means that right now we are present on 4 different networks, so in 5 if we count Ethereum, but let's not go there. So 4 different networks, all of them have a 0 fee fiat on and off ramp, all of them have J Euro, J Swiss franc. And of course, most of the activity happens on Polygon. For now, there is nothing happening on Gnosis or Avalanche. Not that there is no potential, it's just that for now, we mainly focused on Polygon. But I hope that at some point, we'll be able to develop the ecosystem, especially on Gnosis. I think there are many cool things that we could do there. Nevertheless, some people have already done some transaction using Mon Pèlerin on Gnosis and Avalanche. We also launched a new module of Synthereum, which is called the money printer. So we launched a first version. Now we have completed the code of the second version, so already the V2. And I'm preparing an article about it to explain you a bit more how does the money printer works. But the main idea, it allows us, as it's, I mean, like the name says, to print out of thin air JFiat. But don't worry, the idea is that those JFiat without collateral are actually directly deposited into money markets like AAV and market for now. Like that, they are not in the circulating supply. But then if someone borrows JFiat from AAV or market, as you know, they have to deposit collateral in order to borrow them, which means that as soon as someone is borrowing JFiat from AAV, actually the JFiat is over collateralized, but not by Jarvis, but rather by AAV, which means that all the J Euro in circulation are over collateralized. If you check Polygon scan, you will see that actually now there are more than 5 million J Euro in circulation, while the collateral is way below 5 million, I mean the equivalent of 5 million J Euro. This is because when we printed the money, of course, Polygon scan can't make the difference between J Euro that are collateralized and J Euro that are uncollateralized and deposited into AAV. So this is why if you check actually you may see that J Euro can't, of course, make this distinction on Polygon scan. This is what led also, this is also a way for us to make money with the interest. Then we launched a few different tools and a few different one from South Korea. And For us, the most strategic will be those three. So the PLN in Europe, because Poland is the largest non-Euro country in Europe, a country that doesn't use Euro. So the pretty cool market for us. We just need to PLN stablecoin that will be launched later this year. And we launched also the GNZD. This one was a very cool launch. It's because it was requested by another company, which is called TechMint. So TechMint, they have their own NZD stablecoin collateralized with fiat. They wanted to increase the liquidity, the Onchain liquidity. They saw what we did with the Japanese yen from GPYC. So they contacted us and they checked if it was possible for us to launch JNZD and then, of course, to launch a pool, the 2 NZD pool on curve. This was done. And so far, we're pretty happy with the result of the pool. We also have added those 4 stablecoins to Mon Pèlerin, which means that people can now buy and sell with their krona, Australian dollar, Japanese yen, or rand from South Africa, the equivalent in Jarvis stablecoin, again without a fee, but the SWIFT fee, because remember, for most currencies, everything goes through the international railway of SWIFT, and so you have $25 fee to pay. We did, so the first one is very user-friendly. And what is cool with Minerva is that they basically has integrated many of the Bifi, Curve, Paraswap, and Mon Pèlerin, which means that you can buy Bifi and so on, and you can of course swap them for your JFIAT. Then it's very cool because it allows to create, but also to pay invoices on chain using our stablecoins. So if you are a freelancer and you want to get paid in JEuro, or if you are a company and you want to invoice someone in JEuro as well, now you can do it. It's very straightforward to do. We've been using it, of course, since the integration, but not only us, we have discussed with a few companies we work with. For example, sometimes we are hiring external teams in order to do some code. So they were paid in JEuro using request finance. We also have asked Mon Pèlerin, for example, when they send us an invoice to use request and so on and so on. So this is very cool. And also, but this will be for the next month, even though you saw it on Twitter. There is a project called MetaShop, which is using requests in order to create a widget to pay on e-commerce website using MetaMask. And behind the scene, it's actually leverage the request finance protocol, in addition, of course, to Jarvis JFIAT. So this is a very cool, how to say, integration. And finally, it also allows anyone, including a DAO, to pay people using JEuro. And there are already a few companies using them. We will go over it after. Another very, very, very cool integration, maybe actually one of the best in terms of user experience, DeFi basket. So again, we'll go a bit over it after in the tweet that we highlight. But a long story short, the DeFi basket allows you to buy a basket of cryptocurrency with just one transaction, and by using JEuro or actually many different JFIAT. So if you want to buy 50% of Bitcoin, 30% of ETH, or 20% of Matic, you can use them. And also they simplify yield. So if you want to earn yield on your JEuro, again, one transaction and it is done. Basically, they automate all the steps from depositing into Curve and to Harvest and so on and so on. And then last but not least, integration, very cool one as well, Min Finance. This one is very cool because it allows to perform DCA. So it means that you can deposit, for example, 1,000 JEuro you can say, I want to buy regularly, for example, Bitcoin every day. And so every day they will take a part of your 1,000 euro and they will buy automatically Bitcoin. So it's a very cool way to do your DCA. Then we perform over the past 3 months 2 different cross-border payments with the Brazil and Nigeria. So this is very cool because first it allowed us to start speaking about it publicly. We spoke about it on LinkedIn. We did a few podcasts about it. We published an article in Cointelegraph, and this helped us to start putting in the head of a few people following the cross-border payment and remittance industry that actually Jarvis has the infrastructure to perform such payment. And this allowed us to meet with 3 or 4 different companies working in that field. And hopefully this year we could see the first traditional, so let's say Web 2 cross-border payment application that are already working with the traditional banking system, leveraging Jarvis technology in order to perform cross-border payment. This will be, I think, the top of the top for for this year for Jarvis, because it will really show that for us it's pointless to focus too much on what's happening into the way to use JEuro into DeFi, like to make many integrations for yield and this kind of thing. What matters for us is when you do a liquidity mining program, it is to serve something. And those cross-border payments are only possible because of all those different pools that we have launched. So this is very cool. And for me, it's also the way to have to generate a lot of incomes, a lot of revenues, because cross-border payments and remittance is actually a very, very big market. So this could lead to many swaps between different JFIATs, creating, of course, many, enabling trading fees. Then very cool also, we launched our onboarding app on BNB and on Polygon, and we use it during an event using the BNB network. So the onboarding app is very cool. I will show you some pictures after. But the idea is to scan a QR code and boom, you have JEuro. Nothing to do, no transaction to sign, no gas to pay. You have the JEuro and then you can do whatever you want with it. You can send to someone else. You can buy Bitcoin with it. You can swap it for Swiss franc or even the USD and so on and so on. So of course, it is a simple app, and the point is to improve the onboarding app with more features that are actually like mind-blowing. And this will be the best way when we participate to events to mark people, because we distributed them to many people so the event was in Paris, and the feedback was awesome because first it was the first time that they see this kind of application. It's a burner wallet, and people remember you after that. So it was very cool investment on our side. Then very cool app also, we worked on the Curve Forex application. We had some issue with the UI when we calculate the price, so we still didn't launch it officially. But as soon as it is fixed, it will be released, but it works perfectly. Apart from that, we already published a few swaps and a few screenshots. So the idea is that this application is a router between all the pool on Curve who are using either a JFIAT or USDC. So for example, it allows to swap the token MAI, which is a USD stablecoin, for the euro from Stasis. So the way it works is that the MAI will be swapped for USDC on the pool Curve, which contains the 2 tokens. Then the USDC will be used to mint JEuro using Jarvis. And then the JEuro will be swapped for EURS using the 4 euro pool. And doing that, we can also improve a lot the liquidity of all your stablecoins. So for example, we showed that on our Curve Forex application, the liquidity of the token PAR is way better than if you use Paraswap, Balancer, and so on. Because, for example, if you want to buy PAR, what will happen is that the USD, with USDC, for example, the USDC will be converted into JEuro, and then the JEuro will be sold for PAR. And if you want to sell PAR, it's the same. A par will be swapped for J-Euro, J-Euro will be burned, and the USDC will be used to buy something else. So very cool piece of application. And it's a concrete example, again, on how useful are all those different pools, the 2BRL, 2HDD, and so on, because it allows to connect all those different stablecoins together. So it's literally an on-chain Forex market, but not only about JFiat, but any stablecoin that we have a pool with can now use this application to be able to be exchanged for another one. And it increases also their liquidity and so on. And it is super useful for the cross-border application, cross-border payment, because the idea of this Curve FX app is that as it grows, we'll add all the widgets to do on and off ramp. So for example, the widget of Paytree, so you can buy CATC with Canadian dollar. And then when you have the CATC thanks to Paytree, if you want to send them, for example, in New Zealand or in Swiss, for example, so the CATC will directly be swapped for J Swiss franc in just one transaction. And then the J Swiss franc, you can use the widget of Mon Pèlerin to off-ramp it. So it will be a convenient application to send money and to receive it. And of course, it can be an application used by non-crypto people, but it's to show that the infrastructure is here, that the liquidity is here, and we just now need people to build on the top of it. Another very cool piece of information. Those are the names of organizations which have recognized using JFiat for salary. So they either use Superfluid or Request or directly Mon Pèlerin. I said who came public because I know about more organizations that are also using JFiat, but they prefer to don't mention it for security reason or for privacy reason. But it's very cool to see that there is not only us using JFiat to pay salaries and rent and so on and so on, but more companies are coming. And I speak, there is organization, but also, as I said before, there are also many freelancers using JFiat. Sometimes people that we find it out after we meet them, like, yeah, we've been using JFiat for a while now and so on. So very, very cool to see, and important for us to position the JFiat like the de facto stablecoin to use to pay people in DeFi when it comes to non-USD payment. Also, we worked on new contracts. So first we had to change a lot the way we use the Oracle in order to onboard new type of collateral like Ether, Bitcoin, and so on. So we worked on that. And what was the best way to try those new type of collateral than launching a JUSD? So we didn't launch it on the mainnet. We launched it first on the testnet. And even if we launched it on the mainnet, for now, JUSD is just here for testing purposes. We won't launch a JUSD at a large scale, at least until we have the control of Jarvis. But when it will be centralized and people can do whatever they want, you can launch any type of asset with any type of collateral. For now, the idea is just to make some tests and to see how it could handle when the market conditions are very bad. And if it can become a very good USD stablecoin, then maybe we could replace USDC backing all the other JFiat with JUSD. So JUSD being a JFiat, it has all the cool features of the other JFiat, but with ETH. So it allows to go from JUSD to ETH without price impact. So it is basically, it could be the most liquid USD stablecoin, way more than USDC and so on, because again, there won't be any slippage. I mean, there is no slippage between JUSD and ETH. And it allows liquidity provider to have a long position on ETH and earn yield and so on. Then something also ultra cool, we started a liquidity mining program on BNB chain, and we stopped it after it finished instead of renewing it, because in the meantime, the platform Ellipsis changed their token economics from EPS to EPX. So it is now similar to Curve, the Curve model, so with the VE model. And so now all the pool have, every pool on Ellipsis has a gauge. and people can vote with their VEEP. So at some point, the yield on Ellipsis was higher than the yield of our own liquidity mining program. Hence, it was pointless to keep going it. And then there was a launch of ... which is .finance, which is like convex. And now the yield on how to say, on our 2BRL is the highest yield on all our JFIAT. Right now, you can earn 53% APR by providing liquidity on ... And at some point, it was even 160% APR. I think it was like 1 or 2 weeks ago. So very cool. And this is also why we did some discussion and vote to have a strategy around the bribes. So to budget bribes on a ... to also buy $10,000 of DDD token and lock them, and to invest in the 2BRL pool in order to get the yield for which we vote. And since we also vote to get back some of the bribes that we basically give away. And finally, and I think this is the most important news from all, the version 2 of the protocol was completed. So we finished the code in March. Then we spent 2 months doing tests. During those tests, we found a lot of issues that we fixed. One of them was incredibly complicated to find. We found this issue, to give you the anecdote, only after more than 100 tests, because of course we don't test once, we test multiple times the code. So when a test, to explain you a bit, you basically create an algorithm. So you have to code this algorithm, which will test your code into different simulation with different parameters and so on. And one of the issues that we found that we couldn't find without testing it like more than 100 times, it is that the V2 is built on the top of Aave v3. And even in the documentation of Aave v3, they don't mention one of the things. You have to know that in Solidity, it is very hard to do calculation because there is a problem with the rounding. So this is why very often you have some dust. You can't have exact numbers when you do some calculation, division, and so on in Solidity. There is always a bit left and so on. And so the way Aave v3 works to take care of the rounding issue, sometimes they will add one way, sometimes they will remove it, but it's not every time. And the problem with our protocol is that if you add or remove just one way, so it's 0.000, like 17.0.1 USD, not USD, but J-Euro, it can actually fuck up our whole calculation. And if we didn't have done those tests, and if the audit that we are doing now doesn't catch this issue, it could have meant that the protocol will be totally blocked. So it was a very cool finding. But yeah, just this, when we found this, we had to rewrite a huge amount of code, which took us also a very long time. But this is also why you need to do a lot of tests, and you need your code to be tested 100% and a few times. So good news, we finished all the tests and all the fix in May. We contacted the audit firm with who we will work, and they could only start in June. So the audit has started this week, last week. So hopefully, if they don't find any issue, it means that the code will be ready to be launched. And then what will need to be done? So the V2 has a few versions, V2.1, V2.2, and so on. So now we will work on those different versions, which will just add features to the V2. And in parallel, we will also start working on the new token, because we will swap a GRT for Jarvis. So there will be a new Jarvis token. And this Jarvis token will be fully integrated within the V2. So the V2 is really a very important version for us, because the V1, it was basically proof of concept and to find the product market fit. And I think we found it with Montpellier. Right now, many people are using JFiat for on and off ramp. JFiat are the most liquid stable coins on Polygon, Avalanche, and so on. I mean, non-USD stable coin. We have a very big network of integration now. The remittance use case is awesome. And we have many cool things that will happen soon in Africa, Latin America, and so on. So I think we found our niche, our product market fit, and so on. Now what we need is to scale. And the V2 will allow us to scale because of the way it is done, but also thanks to the launch of a new token that is designed also to attract more liquidity and so on. So it's really like a reborn of Jarvis. And I'm very happy to see this rolling up in the coming weeks and months and see where it can lead us. Okay, a few chosen tweets that were important in those last 3 months. So the first cross-border payment between France and Brazil, we were 3.44% better than TransferWise. It was a small amount. Huh? We sent 50 euro. I mean, a bit less or a bit more, I don't remember. No, it was a payment from Brazil to France. Yeah. So 300 BRL was sent and 54 euro were received. So what does it mean? 3.44% better than TransferWise. It means that if tomorrow someone wants to launch an application to move money from Europe, so for example, Portugal to Brazil, back and forth, they could add a 1% fee. Yet they could be better than the cheaper solution out there, which is TransferWise. Then the onboarding application that I mentioned before. So we participated to the Cryptosphere event in Paris. Don't remember when it was. I think it was in April or May. So many things happened that it looks like it was years ago. So as I told you, it's very cool. So you can see here the way it works. So we had 500 cards, and on this card you have two QR codes. The first QR code is to open the application. The second QR code is a private key. And when you scan, so when you open the application with the first code, the application asks you to scan the other code. So you scan, and instantly it imports the private key in your mobile. And you have right away 5 J-Euro because we load them with 5 J-Euro. And then you can swap them for Bitcoin, for example, or you can sell them for J-Euro, for euros. Sorry, you can also buy J-Euro with Euro using the Montpellier integration within the wallet. And all of this is happening without the user to have to pay gas. So they don't need BNB or whatever. Then the Philip from Morpho, he's not the only one using J-Euro in Morpho, but so this one, I mean, he is paid using requests. The $30 million milestone swap on Paraswap also to be announced. The UST crisis also led to the highest daily volume on Jarvis, 3.4 million on the primary market. 3.8 million on the primary market and 3.4 million on the secondary market in 24 hours. Then a demonstration by Romeo. This I didn't mention, but we also launched 2 community page. One is called the JBRL, the second one is JGPY. And the idea is that those Twitter accounts are basically relaying information about our work in Japanese language or in Portuguese. And he did a test between, I think it was FTX or Binance, I don't remember. So he tried to buy each with the combination of official, I mean, of Alter, Paraswap, and so on and so on. So of course, it was more transaction on our side until we have one application that can do it seamlessly. But bottom line, we beat from very far, I think more than 1% of difference Binance. Smallest market, it's even more. So for me, it's a proof, living proof that DeFi can't beat CFOs and so on. But again, if tomorrow someone in Brazil is building a broker to encompass this all those applications, they could be the cheapest way for Brazilian people to buy and sell cryptocurrency. And if no one is doing it, at some point we will be obliged to do it ourselves. So our long-term strategy, now I speak company-wise, not about the protocol, is that when our work on the protocol is finished, but our idea is to spin off the company who develops the protocol to a company doing more applications on the top of Jarvis. So if no one is doing it, we will build ourselves those applications built on the top of the protocol, which will allow to move money from one country to another one, and brokers to buy crypto at the best rate. That's all. I see that I didn't remove all the slides. So what we are working on in June, so there is the V2 audit ongoing. We have preliminary work on the Jarvis token. We are working on updating Jarvis Exchange so it can support the version 2. Same for Jarvis Money. Jarvis Money is the name of the onboarding application with the QR code and so on. And we have to update Junes to reflect all the different changes that we have. This is the ecosystem. So we have added payment here, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so thank you for your time. Okay, I saw that the connection was bad. Didn't see the chat earlier, but I couldn't do anything anyway because now I can't increase, fortunately, the connection. I will try to do the French one closer to the box. Okay, so thank you for your time. And see you soon. I guess, yeah. There is a French one in 1 hour.